So it's Christmas.
Right.
It's Christmas Eve. It's Christmas Eve. Do you? I always like when shows acknowledge that, so that I know the context of when they have the conversation.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna
It's the
sound
holiday spectacular.
the holiday spectacular.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
'Cause
It's
I
like
know
ice capade.
does it get more spectacular than a guest like this? You know what I mean?
exactly. We got the
That's
whole we
right.
got the whole gang. I actually invited mom, but she said she was too shy for the camera.
Okay. Well, maybe did you tell her? But you didn't tell her if I'm going to
did.
be
I
on,
said
maybe
I
she
did.
would want to be on.
She still did want I know you're the golden boy, but she still was not interested.
Yeah, I do like as you guys basically created my worst nightmare where I have to ask you questions and shut up and let you guys talk for the whole
Seriously,
time.
I
It's
was
like,
actually
you know,
thinking that
what,
like I was wondering if Ryan
yeah,
had trouble not being like
what,
it's like at first he thought he was gonna get interviewed and then now he has
right.
to be
Now I'm the one asking questions.
I feel like this is becoming a therapy session for the two of you, and I feel like it's this interaction is sort of
I feel like it's
a
this
turf
moment.
war.
It's a moment to like, show my dominance
Emergence.
Yeah.
as
Wow.
Wow.
as the younger
Dominant.
sibling who kind of rose from
Oh,
shit.
this could be a long podcast.
Oh, he's out. Ryan is like,
Ryan has left the show.
I hope
Look how
that.
funny
See,
that
I will say that would have been better on video for the video audience than the audio.
yeah,
But
right.
that was
So
a good
true.
bit.
For anyone
But
who's not watching on video, Ryan just left the chat.
Go
Maybe
ahead.
the two of you should just like give a little context of the brother-sister dynamic here.
But Ryan, why don't you just because you want to
I'd be happy to.
I try to keep it under 15 minutes.
Yeah, look, I got places to be also. I got
Totally,
another
yeah,
show.
sure
I got
you're rushing
I
out
have
here.
other media hits. Okay. So yeah, so Kylie and I are 3 years apart. So I'm 33 years old. I would say Kylie and I have had a great relationship with the exception of like that 3 to 4 year sibling rivalry period of like teenage years. Other than that, I'd say we're pretty freaking close.
We're pretty tight. I
Yeah.
think that during that time, I was wanting your approval, and you were not looking to give me the approval as the older, and I had to earn it as I got older. Would you say that's an accurate? I wouldn't
I
say
don't know.
sibling
No, no,
abuse.
I don't know. It wasn't a rival. I would say the other part was I was a total suck up goody two shoes, and you had the natural younger sibling kind of questioning and challenging the status quo, and I don't think I liked that. And so that I would say was the core of
I added like
of
a
our
danger component.
yeah, danger. Yeah, well,
Well,
it's
growing up on
it's all
the
relative.
rough streets of Potomac.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I brought danger to the crowd. No, I'd say that's pretty good. And I'm exaggerating. For an older brother, like my friend Gabby, her brother was flat out like, no one likes you. I don't know why you're still here. Like you didn't that part.
No, we never. I would say we have a great relationship, and I would say fast forwarding past sibling rivalry days, we obviously went to the same high school, we went to the same college, which was really fun, and Dad kind of guest taught at Michigan on Fridays in the fall for like 6 or 7 years straight, which was really fun. So Michigan, I think, was a really unique experience where we were out of state students, but our family was in town all the time, and which is great. And for me, I think what's so fun about this show is I would say, Kylie, I've seen you kind of hit a stride past what you were doing 1 or 2 years before for like 8, 9 years now or something like that. Like I feel like
Do you credit that to my participation in the podcast? Is that kind of what just bringing it back to me?
I was actually going to pull this is a little bit. I'm looking a little bigger picture than the
Wait,
podcast.
by the way, is going to be like
Yeah.
the family of egos. My God.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay. Well, are we being honest?
what about me?
Yeah.
What about me? What
Yeah.
about me?
Yeah.
That point about
Yeah.
Dad, maybe we should tone it down so people don't turn it.
Guys, sorry, I have not listened to a word you said. I was just trying to finish my point. But the I think what's very cool and fun listening to this podcast is Kylie, I would say when it was like Churchill and then Michigan and then Penn and then Columbia, you just always like kind of up your game at every step. When you were in Michigan doing organic chemistry, I obviously knew you were high achieving, but I heard you got an A. I don't really see your ability. I just know you're doing well. And I think what's really fun about this is I get to like see it and enjoy it and like hear your knowledge. Because if you just start describing the scientific stuff you've done over the years, it's kind of like, Sure, if you say so. Like, I don't know what that means, but that sounds smart. Good for you. And so it's been fun. And I love the diversity of guests. I love how committed you are to this. I think it's fun, to give dad something to do, which is great. Keep him occupied, which is awesome.
Either this or
Get,
doing like repair work around the house.
Totally.
yeah. Yeah, no, right, sure.
And I have to,
and then the building collapsed.
I only have a
Right.
little time because I have a bunch of chores slated for today.
The gym
totally.
and
Yeah.
laying on the couch hanging out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
the retired life. But he
it's
was
been
a really hard worker back in his day.
Thank you so much.
Still is.
Thank you. Thanks, Rye. I mean, I think what's been fun about this in general, there's so many things. I mean, I said from the very beginning to Dad when we were like kind of playing with this idea, I was like, if we don't have any listeners besides like Ryan and Mom and your sister, like whatever, we'll learn a ton and it'll be fun for us. And like, I think the fact that people do listen is kind of like just gravy. And I think, not to blow too much smoke up your ass, but like, I do think Ryan's taught me a lot about leadership, about.
I thought you were going to say talking and no one listening.
Right. Well, yeah, that actually would have been a better. Maybe that's true. Maybe I'm like, who cares?
Right.
I'm fine just talking to myself. No, but I think Ryan's always been the more like, I mean, when we were little, you were the one talking to everyone. I was kind of like running behind him, like, that's my brother. Like, and so I think, obviously, I wouldn't attribute everything to you, but I do think I've learned a lot from, your people skills and, your questions and things over the years that shaped me into the podcast host I am.
So, Rye,
thank you.
Okay, so that was all great. So
Proud.
Talk a little bit about your reaction to the podcast as a kind of insider, but also a listener.
Good and bad, by the way. Like, I want to know.
I would say what I think is fun about the podcast, I see it as almost like a niche version of how it's made. Like I see it as a total business podcast. Like the science medicalness of it, I actually see as totally secondary. But I would say some of those early shows, especially, there was one with JD that was really good, where he was kind of just describing what he did and why he would rent chairs and how he decided it was time to move on from that to getting his own office, and then which services he needed to layer in. Like, that's no different than someone who makes cabinets or owns hair salons. I would say too, just from my experience, two of my roommates in DC when I was living there were in med school. Like, this formative part of your life from 22 to 30, if you're in dentistry or medicine or Jasper and veterinary, practice, you're in a whole different universe than everyone else, right? Like, instead of making money or spending money, you kind of live in this little ecosystem where you're in school until you're in your 30s, versus I was 22 moving into an apartment in Chinatown, figuring out how to put my life together. It's like you live in a total bubble that's not the real world. You're doing it for a good reason. Like it's for a great purpose, but you're not like learning how to be a full functioning adult in a way, because you're like in this, doctor in training, dentist in training program where you're not living normal.
I appreciate you acknowledge that, because I think it is kind of like people don't realize like how isolating it is. And we actually had on a guest, Dr. Nacho. Dr. Paul Goodman is his real name, but he started this group, Dental Nachos, where it kind of connects all these dentists and communities in their community. And the goal of that was to make the profession less isolating. So I think, to your point, I mean, in dental school, we said it was like weird. We were like, we just like think things are big deals that are like, oh no, my crown broke, or, and no one even knows what the fuck we're talking about. And it's like not that big of a deal. But in that moment, it feels like life or death. And I think that like is a constant theme throughout our profession, where, you get to be a practice owner and then suddenly you're the only doctor in the room and you have to like have this imposter syndrome, like, okay, yeah, I know how to handle everything that goes wrong, whether that be in dentistry or business or medicine, whatever you're dealing with. And I think it is really isolating. And so that was also kind of the goal of this podcast, not even intentionally.
I also would say too, because I do agree with that, but just existential question that people in your shoes would ask yourself is similar to the stuff that someone who, like me, who works in tech and wants to be an entrepreneur thinks, oh, I don't want to start a company. It's too hard. I don't know how to do it. And I feel like it's probably the same with doctors and dentists who are like, I just want to join a practice, like managing my own practice sounds crazy. I think the more you hear other people just explain how they did it, you just have more data and more proof of concept to know like, oh, really was it some big sophisticated thing? They kind of just solved one problem after another.
I think that's really true. And it feels more intimidating than it should be. And I think one of my biggest takeaways, I'm curious if you agree, Dad, is I felt like starting my own practice would be light years ahead of where I am right now. Like I'm way not qualified. I just graduated and I don't want to right now for other reasons that I can talk about, but I feel like if I wanted to start a practice, I mean it would be hard, no question, but like I could. I know where to start and I attribute that to the podcast. If anything, not just learning about starting a practice, but it gave me a little confidence in like, okay, this person did it, I can do it. I need support along the way, but I will get there if that's what I wanted.
I think that there are a couple of themes that recurred through many of the episodes with people as we spoke to them. Simple concepts like profit and loss, knowing what your expenses are every month and knowing what your nut is and how much money you have to clear in order to have profit that allows you to afford a lifestyle, I think is one. I think patient acquisition is another recurring theme, like how people brand themselves. The younger healthcare professionals utilizing social media. And we've had some folks who kind of pivoted out of the main area of practice and developed adjacent lines of business that are, intuitively obvious in hindsight, but brilliant in the discovery. And I think that those have been some really neat things to hear people how they've kind of dealt with that, how they learned it. There was a lot of overlap from guest to guest about how they figured out how to develop something that enjoys success. I thought that was very interesting.
Wait, I like that you just kind of gave us those 3 points. I feel like we should kind of dive into those like 3 things because we ask those questions every single podcast
Right.
of what we learned. So just to like reiterate. So the first one was fuck. I remember the second one. Wait, the first one you
Profit and loss.
profit and loss. Okay, so we had profit and loss. The second one was patient acquisition, and the third one was kind of doing something business related that's like a little bit outside of, the classic private practice ownership. So what I was going to say, and Ryan, if you have any like questions or thoughts on this, please chime in. But with profit and loss, I'd say majority of our guests, they learned it through trial and error. And I would say majority of our guests wish they hadn't done that. It's just that they didn't do it on purpose. They just
What do you
didn't
mean they
know any
wish they
better.
hadn't? Like they
So they like JD, for example, like he was just like he would write down his profit and he write down how much he lost, and then but he didn't have another option. He was a one man shop, so he doesn't say he regrets it, but I think it's funny. Someone like you who's very data driven, you probably would look at these businesses, and I would be lucky enough to have you help me probably, where you would be able to anticipate a little bit of what kind of losses or what kind of profits and have a better sense of that than someone like me who's just like, it was a bad month, so I'm going to spend less this month. And then next month, I'm going to spend more. Like, I think
I, everyone's probably different, but I do think that better way to learn than to like get in the weeds, especially if you're going to be the business owner. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's something you can really delegate out. Like, you know what I
I
mean?
don't
Like,
think
I
it's a
think if
bad
you're,
idea to have some kind of more sophisticated analytics if you can, but again, I don't blame them. I think I would do the same
yeah,
thing, but I'm sure it's a strange way to run a business. I'd say most businesses do have a more strategic kind of system to assess how they're doing than dentists and doctors because they were never taught that and they just got to roll with it.
I think also a recurring theme has been trial and error, willingness to give a shot at something. You have an idea, don't overthink it, don't spend months, whittling it down to the bone, but come up with something that sounds good and give it a shot. One thing, I forget who the guest was, but I thought it was interesting. One of the orthodontists said that they have multiple locations, but what they do is they move their staff
Dr. Good.
from location to location. So they basically, the only redundant expense they have is rent, but they're personnel costs are one, and they just move people from location A on Monday to location B on Tuesday, and run each office kind of in that fashion. Even though it sounds so simple and basic, was I thought in its simplicity was kind of brilliant. Because it allowed them to touch a different patient population that surrounds each of the locations.
Wait, I think that he has the opposite of that, and he said he wanted that. So he has 2 offices, and he has a different staff at both, and I think he wished he consolidated it so that, like, I mean, it's too late
So that was
now.
my idea then.
It was your idea. No,
Brilliant.
but some people
No
do
wonder
that.
I know it resonated with me in a way that, that very few things have.
So really, really quick though, and this is on the, other businesses are maybe running more sophisticated. The older I've gotten, and I'm not that old yet, but like the longer I've been in the workforce, things are much less sophisticated than they seem from the outside. I think appearances can be deceiving. Someone who's got some crazy resume, worked at a, fancy place and started a business, and you're like, wow, they must have started this startup and have everything super dialed. 99% of the time, that's not true.
Another interesting topic that recurred in a number of the episodes involved AI and its impact on the practice of dentistry, the practice of medicine, the business of healthcare. The bottom line is, I don't think people really have a sense of directionally what's going to happen. And right now, it's kind of a jump ball in terms of, will AI replace a lot of healthcare, especially on the diagnostic side, or will it be a supplement and enhance the individual human practice of medicine and dentistry?
Well, I think that most people don't want to come off like they can see the future is kind of the vibe I've gotten, but I feel like I have a pretty good understanding based on what people have said. And that is the kind of unifying perspective is that AI is going to transform diagnostics. So in orthodontics, for example, it's going to immediately be able to be like, this person has this skeletal pattern and caution on these types of movements and kind of these gentle reminders of things that orthodontists obviously are trained to do and think about. But when you're doing 100 patients a day, you're not doing bad care, but you're not doing perfect care because you're in a motion. And so I think that's been the common answer is the diagnostic aspect. And so my takeaway from that, and maybe this is like hopeful, wishful thinking, because I think we ask this because we're both terrified that my job, I don't think you really care too much. I'm terrified.
No, I do care. I've been asking this
No, I
question
know,
for
I'm
quite
kidding.
some time.
I'm terrified that in 10 years, my degree is not going to matter because, robots are going to take over the world. And so is everything.
So I was going to say, I would separate like AI and robotics are 2 different things that
Yeah.
will work together. Let's break it into the intermediate future. Let's say that's 5 years or less, and then the long-term future, which is 5 years or more. In the next 5 years, orthodontics, in my opinion, will be actually one of the most protected practices because it's going to require you. I think doctors, same way, veterinarian, like any healthcare person is going to still be in good standing because, ChatGPT is not going to replace your ability to, put braces on someone or all that. AI help you diagnose someone? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like, ChatGPT helps us, right? Like, ChatGPT helps us all the time now for like Google on steroids kind of stuff. But like, I don't think that that's gonna. I don't think that that's gonna change it.
Thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, I think
Sorry.
that, for example, so orthodontics, that's my specialty, so that's what I know, but we're looking at their soft tissue, their x-rays, what I see in their mouth, like, we're looking at all these things, and so it's easy to get kind of distracted by the biggest problem, and I think AI will kind of be able to deliver all that information to you in a more digestible way so that you're not having to think of, like, 18 things on a problem list, which is what we're trained to do, but no one has time for that.
Yeah, I just think like again, I'm speaking from what I know. I've never sat in a dentist like on the other side of a dentist chair, so I don't know how time consuming that stuff is. In the intermediate future, I don't see that stuff being like mind blowing.
Like, some people are using it, some
No,
people aren't.
to me, what's going to be transformative is the stuff that you were just talking about that people in your profession struggle the most with. P&L, no one's going to be putting together P&Ls in potentially 12 months. you are going to be able to sign up for ChatGPT or Gemini or Anthropic or whatever and say, I'm uploading every invoice that I've put up. I also am uploading all of my, I don't know what revenue processing system for in tech we use Stripe. So I can just upload Stripe into ChatGPT, put all my expenses in there and say, where's my P&L? Like, how did I do this month? And
Yeah,
you could do that on a daily basis,
right.
hourly basis, whatever. And then think about for insurance. There's going to be autonomous insurance claim, adjudication and filing systems. All of that stuff, I think, is going to transform in the next 6, 12, 18 months. Like, you won't need the same legal resources. You won't need the same accounting resources. You're not going to need the same operations resources. That to me is going to be the biggest change. When is like a robot going to put a filling in? That one I have a tough time seeing in the next few years. Not only because of the technology, but like unless you're telling me I can go to a dentist and pay $500, I don't even know what a filling costs, or a robot can do it for $20. I just don't see that happening. But I do think all the business stuff will be exponentially different in very
that's
short.
a good point, because that's what we need more for sure, because most people feel confident about their skills. I think that the other thing that saves practitioners is liability. You can't sue a robot. So I think there's always going to need to be someone who's responsible. And like, I'm not going to let a robot do all my work and say, yeah, I'll take credit if something happens. So
I mean, it's also thinking like right now, certain people get into a Waymo and they're comfortable getting into a Waymo. Other people like me, I'm not getting into a Waymo. I mean, there's no way I'm getting
But
a Waymo.
but that changes faster than you think. You wouldn't have gotten into a stranger's car 10 years ago, and now
What do you think a taxi driver is?
yeah, but like those taxis got a medallion and they go regular, it's like it's a little different. I see your point, but the only thing I'd say, the scariest part of the intermediate future, in my opinion, for people like Kylie's, maybe you just missed the boat by like 4 or 5 years, and I missed it then by 8, 9 years. What's going to be scary, I think, is the generation that's like 15 to 20 now. Think of the way that like you and I, Kylie, grew up with iPhones, and mom and dad are like, what the hell are they doing? This whole thing is like, a new language for me. For us, it's second nature. The people that are teenagers now, the people that are going to be orthodontists in the next 3 years, using ChatGPT and Gemini is going to be like the way that we grew up on an iPhone.
Yeah.
Which means if you want to start a practice, or someone, your contemporaries are starting practices, you're going to be like, all right, I got to hire an accountant. I got to hire this. Some 25-year-old right now is going to be like, oh, I just built it all.
It's not ready yet, so maybe it'll fuck them up a little bit.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. But that to me is scary. Where even now, at my company, we've had a couple of interns come that like built applications fully without any coding experience. None. They don't know how to write code at all, and they can build fully functioning tech applications. And they're 22, 23 years old. And so I do think if you want to be on the entrepreneurial side, you do need to learn how to leverage those things, just because the operational and cost advantage is going to be massive.
You need some like AI literacy.
Yeah, I do think that's important.
So let's move on to the second point Dad made, which was patient acquisition being a common theme that we talked about with people. What were some strategies that stuck with you that our listeners could maybe think about when trying to, get their practice recognized for patients?
It split, and it was interesting the way it split, because some of the feedback was kind of what I'll call old school approaches. One woman was telling us that she has a storefront in New York City, and during Halloween she like went outside and put like stuff outside, and candy and decorations and everything, and had a Halloween party, and that's Dr. Jackie. And that's kind of old school, people to people type stuff. And then others were more about, like
she does both, to be clear. But.
Okay, but others promoted an approach like Koppelman, the hair guy, very TikTok focused, believes that you need to put content out, basically, continually, and flood the zone, if you will, with your your content and your branding. So I think we saw a range of different approaches, and I don't think it's one works and one doesn't. I think going back to my earlier point, there's a trial and error component to doing that. But I mean, somebody else said that they had business cards. I think it was the pain management doctor in Wisconsin, that he went around to like every dentist in Madison, Wisconsin, and handed out his business card to them, which is a very old school
Yeah.
kind of approach, but he got traction out of it.
Right. Well, he
So
went
it
to the
worked.
source, which was the referrals.
Yeah, but
So,
just in
yeah.
terms of the way he did it,
Yeah.
was a very human touch
I
kind of
think
thing.
there is a component of human interaction that people feel more comfortable and safe, whether that's what they can acknowledge or not. But I do think when you're with someone and you see them and you see their mannerisms, like it makes for a more trusting environment. And I think I want to switch into social media in a second, but I do think Dr. Jackie did a lot of things. Dr. Jackie Dekansky, pediatric dentist, smile out loud. She's tried everything, but what I liked about her approach is because I don't have my own business, so I'm very strategic on my questions. What's the purpose of this? And sometimes she was just like, look, it's fun, and like it was a fun activity to do, and if we got one patient out of it, that's awesome. So they would go to Starbucks, and she like put up a little table, and she'd be like, here's a coffee, and you should go check out Smile Out Loud Pediatrics. And like she was like, not that many people came to our stand, but like someone did, and then they learned about us. And I like it was so genuine. Obviously, she wants more patients, but she was also like, I want to know our community, and I want to like get to feel like this is my neighborhood. And so I thought that was really clever too.
I think for medicine, if we're talking about marketing, any healthcare practice, right? Trust is the most important thing, right? Like some consumer out there needs to say, I've seen Dr. Kylie and I trust her to, put my health in her hands. And I'd be curious to see, especially like, and this is why I think this podcast is so brilliant, because people get to know you and feel like they trust you. I think that's a huge part of the brand. Like going forward, I don't understand how you could possibly acquire patients without some referral level like thing, whether it's I literally one of your patients referred me to you. That's obviously the most old school one there is, but like I'd be curious, like with social media, without doing what you're doing, where like you actually are getting to know you via this medium, like even like short form video and just simple Instagram or TikTok ads. I'd be really curious to see if that stuff is going to work in the next few years, just because it feels super saturated.
Well, let me ask you this, and
Yeah.
total honest answer. When you have a new doctor that's not like your general doctor, but if you're doing something niche, like an acupuncture or something like that, will you look up their Instagram, the practice?
No.
You don't. See, and maybe this is because I'm familiar with like medicine TikTok or whatever, but or Instagram. My first thing is to look up a practice's Instagram. It's the weirdest thing. I know it's not normal, but like I don't know. I maybe because I'm just on that platform all the time and I'm familiar with it. And so I think a couple of things. I think that being on social media, no. Do I think a little private practice is going to have, 50,000 followers and get sponsorships and brand deals? Probably not, unless they like have something else that they're offering. But I do think it allows people like me to look up their practice, and they're making a little joking video with their staff, and they're doing a holiday giveaway and things like that that do kind of speak towards what you were talking about, which is the comfort level and the familiarity. They're kind of like me. And
Yeah, like building some community around it, which I think that makes sense. And also like to me, it's like, it's important to separate like organic social and paid social. Stuff like that doesn't cost anything, right? Like you just throw up a fun picture, you're interacting with your community. But like would I pay to like bomb Instagram feeds with come to this
right,
practice? Probably not.
well, that
I
feels like
think
a billboard that has a lawyer on it. It's like I'm not going to you.
totally. But I do think that like any type of conversion, I think is so hard to do without word of mouth community branding. Like there has to be some sort of like to your question, am I looking up the Instagram? No, because I never go somewhere that someone didn't tell me to go. Like I've never ever seen a healthcare professional that someone I know hasn't seen.
Something else I want to just include, because this was a big game changer for me this year, is that I can't remember who it was, but one of our guests said to me, just start creating content, get comfortable being on camera, which is kind of what I was doing with Medical Morons. I wouldn't say I was like super like on the internet, but definitely outside of my comfort zone. And their point was you might not get anything from it, but eventually you're going to need to get more comfortable when you do own your own practice, being kind of the face of your practice. And when you get that kind of media training, I guess, and comfortability in front of the camera, you're gonna be a step ahead of your peers than, if you didn't. And I do feel I wouldn't say I'm great at this at all, but what I have noticed is I care less what people think. In the beginning, I was like, I'm not gonna post that. Is that embarrassing? What if like 4 people like it? Now I'm like, this is all kind of embarrassing, but like if I get a brand deal from it, I don't give a fuck. Like
I'd also
I
say,
want some
some of the best, and I usually hate, super cheesy, career, like self-help kind of stuff. But one of my favorite, like, mindset things is like when you probably were like, start a podcast, like people really want to like listen to me. Like, is anyone gonna care? Like, this kind of feels silly. But this guy told me, like, just thinking you want to start a podcast, 3% of people aren't going to do that, right? So you beat those 3% of people. You actually went and started one. 60% of people may not even do that. You're now ahead of those people. You've been doing yours for a year. Another 30% of people wouldn't have done that. So it's like every time you just do one step forward, you're doing more than an entire cohort of people. And I think for you, like, A, yes, you definitely probably built some confidence just by putting yourself out here like this and doing it. B, you've learned a lot from talking to a lot of people. But it's just good practice to just start something from nothing, right? Like, I think that is a good, and I'm curious to hear because you alluded earlier that you don't want to start your own practice yet. And I'm curious as to why, but like, I do think if and when that day comes, this is prime for preparation for that.
I agree. I think that this, even if we change what we're talking about, or I don't know where it's gonna, people ask me all the time, what do you want? Do you want to be like this big podcaster? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just doing this and I've learned a ton from it. It's fun to do it with you. But yeah, so let me put it this way. I don't
Yeah.
not start a practice. If you asked me a couple years ago, are you going to be an associate or a practice owner? What do you think? I'd say I'm going to own my own practice. Yeah. Like that's what orthodontists do is like they work for a couple years and then they own their own practice. Talking to all these people, like, it is so much work. And I don't mean to say that because I'm lazy and I don't want to do the work. I'm happy to do the work for something that I feel all in on. And that was a common trend with all of these guests. I mean, Dr. Ingrid paid herself $60K when she started her company. She had to live at like 31 with a roommate in a 1 bedroom. You have to make these really big sacrifices but she was so invested in her vision. And so I haven't yet felt that like spark or that excitement from one type of opportunity that I'm like, I'm going to put it all on the line for this, which all of our guests have done. And I think you can't half-ass it. And I don't want to half-ass it. And so I guess now I feel a little more like, okay, let's like think about this before I just dive into this. And then the other thing is with DSOs, which are like the corporate practices, like becoming bigger and bigger. I don't know if I want to be competing with that. Maybe they're the future. I don't know. And I guess part of it is a little bit of, if you can't beat them, join them, maybe mentality. Like, I kind of want to see where that plays out.
It sounds like that stuff we were just talking about earlier, though, like the whole element of like what, there's not a right or wrong answer. It's more like what's right or wrong for you. And the other thing is like timing is part of that too. It might be right for you now or wrong for you now, but it'll be right for
In a
you
year from now, I might have a totally different answer.
or in February. Who knows? Like, things change. Can I ask you guys a question? What would you say is something new you learned about Dad this year through the podcast?
I wouldn't say I learned from, I mean, well, he knows about a lot of shit that I didn't know he knew about. I would say that's what I learned the most about because sometimes we'd have guests on and I mean, because he was a mergers and acquisitions lawyer, but like, I'm not going to lie, I didn't really ask many questions about your career growing up because I didn't know what the fuck you were doing. And so I knew the big stuff, but that was kind of it. And so we'll have guests on that, are talking about these kind of niche, really detailed processes. And I'm like, my brain went elsewhere and Dad's like, yeah, well, you have to do this before you can do this. And he starts explaining it to the guest. And I'm like, what the fuck? And so he would come in with this knowledge that I knew he knew, but I didn't know how specific he knew. So I thought that was fun to see.
Dad, honestly, like, it's how it's just funny the things you like take from when you're a kid. But like, I would say I personally have like a media consumption problem. Like, I inhale it from the host. Like I will watch any sports thing, any interview, anything. Like I can't get enough. Growing up, Dad would watch he would watch like Charlie Rose, Face the Nation, 60 Minutes, like, Sports Center in the morning, like everything. And I think like it's fun to see Dad, who, I mean, Dad, you tell me, I feel like you still love watching this stuff, but like, you watch so many people who have hosted and done interviews. I feel like you have a good voice for it just because I think you truly enjoy consuming it.
True.
Yes, I like information of a lot of different kinds. Look, I didn't know that this particular episode was going to turn into such a promotion of me, but now that it has, I'm very happy
All like this, I thought.
that this is actually better than I was expecting.
Uh-huh.
In terms of Kylie, it's a good question, right? I think that, Kylie continues to impress, I guess is the way I would put it. It's like whenever she reaches a certain accomplishment and you say, wow, that's amazing that she, was able to do that. Then she takes it up a couple of notches, and then she continues to take it up a couple of notches. I feel like with both of you, I mean, we're obviously very proud of our children, that both of you have kind of limitless opportunity, but you're both kind of in the process of realizing your potential, which is very exciting to sort of, observe, participate in. And I get, a lot of joy out of that. It's really great.
I think it's been fun because I could.
Not really, Ryan.
No, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard not to talk about. It's hard not to talk about.
Right.
But what I was surprised and impressed by is I know you say that you love this show because you
we
get to
got
learn.
a guest
Special guest appearance.
But I want
special.
to just
Yeah, it's only about you, Kylie. Don't worry. It's not nothing.
The whole family's here, not me.
I know.
Is
I invited you.
Mom, how's it going?
You're on camera.
You interviewing Ryan?
I'm in a little
No,
closer.
he's interviewing us.
No, I'm interviewing them.
Oh, okay, good for a change.
Right? We talked about that.
It's honestly no one's taken a breath in the last 52 minutes. So
Right.
we're all yeah.
52 minutes is like I thought we just started.
Yeah. I know.
It's going to be
I
the
know.
longest.
I know, right? I'm
Right.
actually thinking I have to edit so much. Wait, we'll reconvene after this, but I do want to just finish up the episode. Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I know. I think you kind of started this originally, with the premise of, it'll be good to learn and all that. But I do think you actually enjoy doing it. I think you like running the account. I think you like building a brand. I think you have fun, just because you spend a good amount of time doing it, which you wouldn't do if you didn't enjoy it.
Totally. No, it's so much fun. And I've gotten to meet so many people that are so smart and driven. And like, while I appreciate you saying I like take it to the next level, it's because I'm talking to these people who are taking it to the farthest levels. And so I'm like trying to keep up. You know what I mean?
On that note, too, because I know we've done a lot of family stuff, so maybe the listeners don't care about the Schlesingers as much as the Schlesingers care about the Schlesingers. But what was maybe the most surprising thing a guest told you this year? Like something that really, caught you off guard or was unexpected, could be medical related, business related, entrepreneurial.
So what actually comes to mind for me, and it's not even just medical, I'd say it applies to everyone, is we had on Marjorie Krippel, I think you say, and she's a therapist, and Rachel Kane was on it with us. The reason her business like boomed was because she was noticing a loneliness epidemic in like today's society, and that's why people were needing more and more therapy. And I thought it was interesting, and I'm curious, Ryan, if you notice this at all. Like my best friends, a lot of them don't live near me. And so it's like you think you have all these friends, which I do have a ton of friends, but they're not with me all the time. And our generation has this kind of weird feeling of like you have a ton of people in your corner, but on your day to day, you don't really. A lot of people don't. And so I just thought that was kind of like an interesting point, and that's why your work culture is really important. I feel like Raya is someone who worked from home for a couple of years. Like you notice that too. Like that's your day-to-day experience. So you could have the best friends in the world, but if you're not seeing them every day, that's not enough to enrich your day-to-day life.
Is there something you guys want to do different in the next year other than just more guests? Like, I don't even know what formula you would change, but like more events, more AI. Are you going to use more AI in your content, you think?
Maybe I need to learn how. No, I would like to use more AI for the podcast, like to generate content, I'd say. I think in-person events are fun. I think our in-person event, for anyone who missed it, was a total hit. I think people are
That's right.
looking for community in their profession, and we had really great guests and great food and sponsors and gifts. And like, I just think like it was so much fun, not just for me. Like I had good feedback from it. And so I think we'll try to do more of that for sure.
Good. I love those.
Yeah.
I think those are good.
All right, should we wrap this
Let's-
up? We've been on for like an hour.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up because I don't want to have to edit too much. Thank you, Rye, for coming on. This was so much fun.
What a
great
guest.
guest.
Yeah,
This is a dream come true.
I know. You've been begging.
That's well, I thought there was a lot of feedback that people wanted me on that
I actually do think this will.
they
bring
they
people
didn't
out.
understand.
it's
I'm
unbelievable.
gonna have to change my email and my phone number
I
after
know,
this.
right now, right?
Let
Yeah.
me just tell you, Rye, celebrity is not all it's cracked up.
Right. Let's see. Maybe I'll even get Caroline to listen to me on this.
that
But
would
she'll
be
probably
a big
she'll
gap.
probably be detracted from it. She'll
I was
probably be
gonna say
thinking,
she's gonna
"Great,
be like, "This is what I married." It.
I gotta listen to him when he's around. Now I gotta listen to him when he's not around. Like that's even worse.
Good thing we're not exposing her to it until after the wedding had happened.
Yeah.
it's gonna take a lot.
That was strategic. That was good.
All right.
Good.
Well, love you, Rye. Thanks for
Thank you for having me on. I love you guys. I'm very proud of you both, and I love you. Bye, Mom.
Thanks for listening to Medical Morons. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.